Welcome back. So today we've got for you a very, very hot topic. It's deep. We are in the ocean today.
Yes, we asked you about the love that you crave, and you said you crave a love so deep that the ocean would be jealous.
Yeah.
So we decided, hey, let's go into the ocean. Let's swim. But the question is, are you ready to swim and deal with the sharks that you meet?
Yeah. So today's topic was inspired by the book of Hosea, where Hosea is actually shown by God how God actually loves his people, So today we want to talk about the redemptive love of God. But before we go into our topic today, we just would like to advise all of you guys to read the book of Hosea. Even if it's after the episode, just make sure that you read the book of Hosea. It's a really beautiful book, and it would help you understand the love of God and how God loves his people. No matter what happens, he loves you.
Amen. It's a good recommendation for somebody who has not experienced the love of God, who's questioning the love of God, or who's questioning love in general. Does it exist? But I'd like to just make you think a bit. You know that the wind exists. You have not seen it, but you see its effects. So read this book and you will have that experience where you cannot tangibly touch love, but you see love in action.
True. So as we're going into the redemptive love of God, we're both going to share our personal experience of how we've both experienced God's love, in our lives. So I'll let you go first.
Wow. When we talk about redeeming love and reading the book of Hosea, it takes me to my varsity days. I had this boyfriend who broke up with me in the beginning of the year, and later on there was like a freshers ball that was taking place, and we reunited, And when we reunited, he was like, hey, I'm in town, let's, meet up, I'm here for 2 days, And it was a time where I was almost trying to find God again, because I got saved when I was really young, but I backslidden for a few years going into my first year. But I had a friend who was very spiritual, and she had started like a morning prayer. So I was doing those morning prayers. I was sort of kind of coming back, but a bit reserved because of some of the hurt that I've experienced in the past few years. So, okay, fine, I'm trying to get myself together. I'm in this morning prayer, and this guy who broke my heart in the beginning comes back, and he's like, oh, let's revive, And I was like, and I chose to go revive whatever that was dead, So I go, it was during the week, I skip class, and I go meet up with this person. And you have that conversation, oh, I hope nothing happens, because we had been sexually interactive before. And I'm like, I hope nothing happens, but if it happens, what am I going to do? But I think I'm ready. I think I want to revive, whatever. And we get there, yes, we chill and everything. And it gets to that part, and I give in. And during the act, I hear like the voice of God inside of me saying, what are you doing here? At first I thought, I'm crazy. What's going on with me, And, I just brushed it off, but it came back again. And when it came back,
What are you doing here?
What are you doing here? It felt so different. It was not a judgmental, what are you doing here? But it was a concerned, what are you doing here? And I was like, whoa, my guy, can we stop a bit? And, and he was like, are you fine? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Can we just, stop? And when he was, so we stopped, and when he was, accompanying me to get my transport, I was quiet, and he was just constantly asking me, are you okay? But in that quiet moment, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like God was just loving on me. And I was confused. I was not understanding, because I was like, but God, I was, how can you be loving on me, And my goodness, wow. I can't explain it, but his love was there for me in my chaos, in my, turning my back from him. And when I got back to Ray's, this friend of mine, I saw her and I just ran to her and I was like, can you please lead me into a salvation prayer? She's like, are you fine? Because I was crying. She's like, are you fine? I'm like, I'm fine, but I just need you to lead me into a salvation prayer. So we quickly went up to her room and she led me into a salvation prayer. And yeah, you know what? That was me turning back, and that was God just breaking those boundaries for me. That He's not a God of a location. He's not going to save you in a holy place or in a place that you feel that it's decent. Even in the pits, even when you make your bed in hell, He will be there with you, you know. So when I read the story of Gomer, it takes me back there. But the song that also resonates in my heart is Reckless Love by Corey Asbury. You know, that song, when it came out, it came with so much controversy, even in the circle of Christianity. People are like, oh, how could he use such a reckless word to describe God? God is so majestic. God is so holy and mighty. But then it takes me back to, but God was so reckless that He came on earth as human. But He didn't just come and boo, He was a whole fully fledged adult, but He started as a baby. You know, He started in the womb and He was birthed and He went through the process. And that also reminds me of how God's love is so progressive, you know. Yes, it comes and it showers you, but for some people it starts in the womb, where it's unsure. You hear the kicks and you haven't seen it, but you know that the baby's there. And when it comes out, it grows, it matures. You go through all the teething stages, in teenage stage, the adult stage. It's just the progressive love of God, you know. And the song Reckless Love, just for me, that song and the situation that I went through just showed me that God wants you complete. God sees you complete, you know. And even if you have like 50% of your life sorted out, He will still want to concern Himself and build that 50% that's not complete and bring it together so that it's 100, you know, so that you're able to live a full life. So for me, when I read the book of Hosea and just listen to that song, it just puts me in awe. I'm like, God, you are so good. Your love is limitless. Your love is so gracious. God, I'm in awe. I don't know how to explain it, but you love me so deep that I don't even understand why, you know, but you love me anyway. And God has no boundaries for me. I think that's how I received His redeeming love. And it's not just once, but it's quite a few times. But that stands out for me because sometimes we lose out on experiencing our Damascus moment because we're looking to experience it in a holy place, at church, or in your prayer closet, or at prayer, or when you're fasting. But when you're doing things that you know that are, you know, against His word, or, you know, are against your values, you never think God touches you. But I'm talking to those people who you have heard that voice, but you were in a place where you were like, oh, well, here
Can't be God's people.
Can't be God's people here. I'm out here dancing, twerking it up, honey. Why is the Lord speaking to me? Hey, because He loves you.
Like that.
Yeah, He's not a God of location.
No, that was a good one. No, and for me, with my experience, I'll take it to a time when I was depressed. I was going through so much. I felt so overwhelmed. Like I felt like I'm in a tight spot, you know, and you know, when I only realized that I'm really in a, like, it's a tight spot when I watched Sarah Jake's sermon where she was talking about a tight spot, that, you know, when you're in the tight spot, God is there in that tight spot with you. No matter how tight it is, where you feel like you can't breathe, it's you and Him there where you can't breathe. You know, I was depressed. because I felt like things in my life are not going the way I want them, I would like them to go, or the way I thought they would go. I got an internship that I did not really like, but at the end of the day, I actually came and realized that internship, it was God's plan to actually change my character. I grew character wise. But going back to the redemptive love, that God still loved me, because when I was depressed, I felt like I was drifting away from God. Felt like, what, because I felt like, no, I'm not feeling God's love. I feel like I'm an outsider in the house of the Lord. I don't feel like his daughter, because I'm not getting any of the things that I prayed for. Instead, I'm getting opposite. So I would cry baby, cry, and I'll pray less, or I'll pray the prayer that sometimes I pray our Father, our Father who art in heaven. Sometimes I'll just be like, what, God, you know what's in my heart. But even when I was drifting away from him, even when I felt like I was rejecting him, even when I was rejecting God, he still came after me. He was still showering me with his goodness, with his love. Like the things that were happening in my life. When you're depressed, even when good things happen, you can't see them. You only realize after you actually get out of that depressed moment that actually God has always been by my side.
Yeah.
Like God's love during that moment, it had no, okay, since you're not praying, since you're not talking to me, since you don't even want to read my word, you don't even want to listen to me, I'm leaving you. No, instead I felt like that's where he was going more and more and more, like trying to show me that I'm here for you. I'm here for you. You are more than enough. Just because I'm putting you in this place does not mean that I don't love you. I love you so much that I want you to grow with this.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember me actually coming back to my senses and actually getting out of depression. I was alone in my flat, and I'd gone for professional help because my mom suggested that, but it did not really help. I knew that even though I go to a psychologist, I need to talk to God about how I'm actually really feeling, because I was hiding my feelings away from God. I was hiding how I'm feeling and why I feel like this, because I felt like, God, why are you not giving me what I prayed for?
Yeah.
So it was at that moment when I was alone, when I was praying, and I was watching the Tide Spot sermon, Sarah Jake's Tide Spot. I cried, and it's where when Sarah was like, God is a gentleman whereby he's not just going to force himself into your situation. You have to talk to him. He's not just going to come in. He wants you to let him in. He's going to knock. You have to open the door. He's not going to barge in.
Amen.
He's such a gentleman. So it's there and then that I decided that, you know what, Lord, I'm letting you in how I feel. And at that moment, I felt God saying, you don't have to just get out of depression. You can take it slowly, step by step. Feel what you're feeling. I'm allowing you to feel what you're feeling, and we can go through this together. You're not alone. I'm with you through this, and I love you regardless of how you were feeling before. Don't even beat yourself up because you feel like, oh God, I rejected you, I was not supposed to do this. As a born again Christian, I know better. I felt him saying, you know what, I know you knew better, but let's start afresh. Let's take this together. Let's go together, and let's take it and let's do a new chapter. Let's write a new chapter. Forget about what happened. Let's write another chapter of you getting out of this process of depression.
Amen.
Yeah.
Wow. God will take you step by step. He will.
Yeah.
Like line upon line, precept upon precept. You don't have to quickly get out of your depression. You don't have to quickly be the finished product. Although he sees your omega, when God looks at you, he looks at the omega, because he's the alpha and the omega. But he's very there through your beginnings and your in-betweens, So for me, I would, from this episode, I just want whoever's watching to remember that you are not too far for God to reach you. You are not too deep for God to dive in and search and find you, And You may not see him, but he is the beginning of love. If you could receive his love, it makes it easier to love the people around you.